I mean, I don't really think colored identities are silenced. I think that there is one narrative right now and a single story, and that's what I'm worried about, because I don't want the single story to be khatful. Jabu Nadia Newman. So what my dad and what my best friend call me is Ja, like J-A-H. But my dad also used to call me baby shoes. I identify as a woman of color. I am a filmmaker and photographer. My work and my scripts that I want to make and my dreams and my ideas. I don't think I'll ever know that. I don't think there's ever a point that you can make it. Maybe I've made it when there is nothing more else that I want to do, but I feel like I'm always going to want to do new things and try new things. And therefore, I don't feel like I'll ever really have made it. Kind of. I save in like year spans. So like, I'll save to like travel 1 year, or I'll save to like, you know, buy something 1 year, but I don't have like a long-term saving. But yeah, I am saving, and I definitely am thinking about it more. As a woman in South Africa, I feel inspired. I feel like now is the time for us to really take, you know, roles of leadership and really be the ones who are in, you know, the foreground of all different aspects, whether it be creative, financial, business, lawyers, anything. Now is the time for women to really take control and take charge. In 2018, I got to begin what I found out is my life's work, which is starting to document my family and starting to document alternative narratives of mixed race and colored identity, and really understanding that and where that comes from, and understanding that to be proud to say you're colored, you need to know where the fuck you came from and where the fuck your ancestors are from. So yeah, I think in 2018 I found what my life's work is gonna be. Ooh. I'd like you to know that I conquered traveling alone for a month in Europe. It happened by mistake. I never thought I could travel alone, and I was forced to. And honestly, it changed my life. Like, it made me realize things about myself that I'd never realized before, and made me realize how strong I can be and how independent I can be. I would spend more time with my mother. I would talk to her more. I would even spend more time with my dad. I should probably do that, spend more time with my family. I think that, you know, when you're young and you're really hustling and really trying to make it for yourself, like, family goes by the wayside, and like your whole focus is your career. And now that I've been spending more time with my family, I realized how much inspiration I could have gotten from them, and how much of their stories I want to tell and that I want to include in my work, and that could only make my work better. So yeah, even though I would redo that, I'm hoping to still do that now. So Fees Must Fall and Roads Must Fall, that was the biggest inspiration, learning about intersectionality and seeing the different women, non-binary and trans individuals like lead the protest, and yeah, be like pillars for people in those spaces and teach people things that no lecturer at UCT had ever done. So yeah, those were the huge inspirations. And then for me, for the characters, it was a lot of things. It was the women that play the characters, because they're based off of them, as well as people's misconceptions of what it means to be a feminist, so those stereotypes. And then, yeah, it was just about trying to encompass what it means to be a woman of color in South Africa now, and with all of those complex identities, having 5 women that represented one of us. So in that space is looking at the complex identities that exist within mixed race or colored identity. It's looking at my grandmother and her story. My grandparents, they assimilated into a colored culture because they were brought up and changed their surnames to stay in that area. And through doing that, we lost a lot of like our history and understanding where we came from. So it's re-looking at that and re-looking at what colored people had to give up and what African identities they had to give up to live in South Africa or to survive or to stay in areas. I mean, I don't really think colored identities are silenced. I think that there is one narrative right now and a single story, and that's what I'm worried about, because I don't want the single story to be Khatfol, and I don't want the single story to be that colored people are Khoi and Cape Malay. There are lots of different types of narratives, lots of different types of complexities and identities. And yeah, I just want to make sure that the ones that aren't being represented are being represented, because yeah, for us to start with unpacking in our own community, we also need to show that, there are different people in this community that believe completely different things from you and come from a completely different place. My grandmother, she's my last grandparent alive. And for me, it was almost an excuse to spend time with her, because it was like, I put all my time into my work, and therefore if I make my work about my grandmother, I'm gonna spend all my time with her. And it was also about showing her that like your story matters, your narrative matters, it's relevant right now. And yeah, I wanted to give ownership to that. I also wanted to make something that my cousins could look at and be proud of, and also learn for themselves. A lot of them don't know our history and don't know what our grandparents went through or where they even came from. So it was also just about, when people say in the color community, we need to start with our families and start with the racism that exists there, that was my point of doing this, is starting with my family and questioning those things. For me, the main thing is just giving a voice to women, non-binary and trans individuals that don't get that opportunity and don't get that space. And yeah, I felt like my grandmother was the next one that I wanted to do, and we'll see from there. But for me, it's also about making sure that in the work that I do and in the people that I work with, it's predominantly women, women of color, non-binary and trans individuals, and making sure that we're not just putting representation in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well, and in the crew, and in the people writing the stories and creating it and making the decisions. So, for like me and Luvuyo, we worked on each other's films, and while we were working on it, we were like gagging over Vaka. And we had literally been dreaming since like September last year about doing a music video. And we were just always coming up with ideas every time we were together thinking about it. And then we approached them and we decided like, fuck it, let's do it. And then we approached the Goethe Institute, which funded it. And yeah, that's how it came about. So I'm excited to say that I will be part of a writing residency in France for a month, and looking at not a season 2, but almost like a spin-off or like another web series that's based off of the Foxy Five. We're still trying to figure out in what we're gonna do it, but I'm looking to work with other women writers, other women directors, trying to put together a writing group, and yeah, write some new stuff. So like, I totally understand that. I didn't tell my dad that I changed my course to film and media. I didn't tell him after 2 years. So I totally get that. I think it's important for you to work really, really hard and have something to show them that they can understand. Like, it's really cool, and it does help, like things like being in the newspaper or whatever. Like, maybe your parents don't get that, but they can see that everyone else gets it. But also, I think a really good thing to do if you're wanting to join the industry is get a camera. And if you can't get a camera, ask people to borrow a camera, practice shooting, try and get on set. And when you're on set, be the most helpful person. Like, I've gotten into positions and into work because the one time I was an extra on set, I made a point to ask the director things, to tell him I was studying, to make a point of wanting to learn and asking questions. If you are constantly asking questions in the industry, people will take note of you because you want to learn and they just want to work with people who want to learn.